Story 1. Husband cheated on me for 5 months, posting this 3 months post D-Day. My husband, M30, cheated on me, F28, for 5 months around the time my second child was due to be born. We've been together 3 years and we now have 2 children together. We got married a year after dating and we got pregnant with our first son after 4 months of entering into a relationship together. When I met my husband, he was loving, shy, sweet, kind and super funny. His love language is acts of service and quality time. Now my husband has always suffered with pornography addiction, and I've known about it since we met. We'd fight about it and he would promise to stop and that he'd change his ways, then months later he continued to watch porn and a few weeks before we got married, I caught him out for looking at a local escort site. I threatened to break off the engagement and he had a meltdown promising me that was the last of his porn addiction and he had finally learned his lesson. I married him because I genuinely thought he would change after this incident. He has used escort services in the past before we met, so I forgave him, as he claimed he was only looking at the site this time and never planned on using the services. There were many red flags like downloading AI dating games and continuing to watch porn through Reddit, which I only found out after I learned about the affair. The offense: my husband confessed to sexting loads of women on Reddit 2 months before our second was born. The day my second was born, my husband signed up to OnlyFans after coming home from the hospital, where I was still staying due to birth complications. He subscribed to a chick who looks like his ex. He used a secondary Facebook account and used it to meet and chat to women for 3 months. He had video sex with one of the women he met on Facebook. He gave money. He said things to them that he says to me like, "I love you," and calling them all kinds of compliments that he also uses on me. He added someone he met on Facebook on his WhatsApp and shared sexy pictures to many others, including the one he added on WhatsApp. He used the account under a fake name, never saved any profile picture, but did put his location on his bio, which was public. He told me that did tell most of the women he talks to that he was married and had children. He never confessed to the affair straight up and kept lying about details when asked to explain everything. Finally, after finding out, he immediately deactivated the accounts and eventually confessed to everything he had done during the 5 months with much hesitation and shame. He told me it meant nothing and that it was just a product of porn addiction. He's made promises, taken accountability. His parents know that he cheated, my parents know he cheated, and the minister who married us knows he cheated as he confessed to him as well. He wants to make the marriage work. He's doing as much as he can to show me he's changing, porn blockers, open phone and being honest about his past. I can't get what he did out of my mind. My anger and resentment for what he's done to me and his family grows every day and all I want to do is leave. I love him though, and sometimes I still feel like sticking together just for the kids as they are really young still, 2 under 2. Important facts: my husband has little to no relationship experience. He's dated but nothing ever worked out for him. He's been single 28 years, so if I left him, it's highly unlikely he'd find someone else ever. Like I said, we have 2 kids. My husband is autistic, diagnosed as an adult. Generally, my husband is a wonderful, reliable, kind, handsome, IMO, great father, productive and usually thoughtful human being. Story 2. Cheated on after almost 10-year marriage, trying to reconcile. Long read. My God, what a bummer. I'm new to the Reddit thing, so let me know if I have to format things differently. Here's our situation. We've been married for 9 years, almost at 10. She spends a lot of time playing games online. I've played the same game with her, it's been fine. Within the past few months, I've slowly been shut out because she's playing with others who are better than me. It's an MMO, it happens. I stopped playing altogether because I only played the game to be with her. One person happens to have family near where I live and is coming up to visit them. She asked if she could go see him and his family to see what they are like for fun. I said sure. Context note: she has never ever given me any reason to think she has or would cheat. She's been a very honest and forthcoming person, but has never really done anything wrong. They do group voice chats a lot and I listen in. I'm sitting behind her but we're back to back. I started to notice that he comes across strange and told her I don't really like how he seems flippant about making sexual jokes in the game. She said that's just how he is. These jokes were like, "Oh man, that enemy really bent her over and gave her a good plowing," which is fairly benign given that it's a game, but I didn't like that slowly she was the only one who was being proverbially had by enemies when she died. Long story short, she went and hung out with him and his family. They went to movies and other things. I was working so I couldn't go. One day she had left sometime around 8 in the morning and wasn't back until after midnight. I knew there was funny business here. She kept saying they were out eating or gossiping about their family, hanging out in the beautiful lobby while having a drink, shit like that. I had also recently, before this time when he was around, noted her becoming more guarded about her phone, which is absolutely unusual. She started having conversations with her earbuds in, and in another room, felt like hiding, it was. I broke my no snoop rule one day when she was sleeping and went through her Discord messages with this guy and it gutted me. So much talk through the past month about him wanting to fill her with his babies, discussions about what had happened on each day, waiting for it to happen again, planning the next to visit. And he is enamored here, he thinks she's single. She never told him she was married. I didn't come after her right away. I stewed and collected evidence. I used my phone to film as I scrolled through the messages to keep timestamps and all the conversation I could. The next morning I started to journal my thoughts to get them out. I couldn't sleep much and knew I needed an outlet. I wrote her an angry letter, I wrote her a sad letter, I spent hours writing down quotes and timestamps to them that were particularly hurtful. This was all for me, not actually for her to read, but I did share them eventually. I spent more time planning how I would deal with this. Maybe ambush them when he came back so he had to waste his money. Maybe bash his head in. But I couldn't, he's innocent, and I harbor him no ill will, it has nothing to do with him, which is probably one of the toughest things here. He's just a dude being a dude. I happened to overhear them talking and to end the conversation, he said, "Mwah mwah mwah, love you," and she said, "I love you too," meekly. I sent her a text message that said, "Mwah mwah mwah." I came upstairs a few minutes later. I work from home but I work in healthcare and can't be in an area with other people for HIPAA compliance for remote workers. We went over it, she's freaking out. I haven't told her one way or the other if I intend to stay because I don't want her thinking she just needs to ride out the storm. My first order of business was that she needs to tell him and end it immediately. She is very hesitant and doesn't want to hurt him. Too bad, he's an innocent casualty but he'll move on. I woke up this morning after deliberating over the last few days and have decided I'm going to try and work through this with her. I don't know if this is the right choice. I have the facilities to buy another house and be okay, and I spent years in therapy for my own childhood trauma and I've put every bit of that to use as I can to make sure I understand what I'm feeling and where this will go. I have written a list of requests I have for her to work on, and her response to each, if not completely compliant, will tell me that she does not value our life together more than spontaneity with a stranger, which is fine, if that's what she wants, but she needs to accept that and let me move on with my own life. Complications. Here's where things are very tricky. She has severe depression and anxiety, she has suicidal tendencies. She doesn't work. She doesn't clean or cook. She puts her one half in for mortgage and pays for heat because she likes the house to be at 75 degrees and I said I won't pay for that, leaving with basically no money because she lives on SSDI. I wait on her hand and foot, I get her drinks and food, I go buy takeout because she has serious gastrointestinal issues and can't eat a lot of the time, so I take whatever chance I can get to have her eat. I try to take us to Disney or go to other places, I try to engage with her in art even though I'm not very good, she loves art. I do my best to be present but also give her space when she needs it because of her anxiety. I work a lot, hospital life. I give her money for her game, I pay for all the medications, the emergency department visits we go to, I buy her figures from anime and shows she likes, I bring her fresh water around when she normally wakes up on her nightstand, I do everything I can to make her life palatable and hopefully give her something to look forward to. Punchline. If what I am doing now isn't enough, or is too much, I don't know what more I can do. I'm not obese, but I am balding. I'm extremely kind and respectful to everyone, her family loves me, I have basically no family and my dad is a huge fuck up. I only told her I knew once I had already gotten the angst and anger out of my heart, to give this the best chance it can have without her feeling threatened more than she already does by me knowing this. I told her that in a marriage, we're both to blame when something goes wrong and I must have something I need to do differently, or else I'm just not the right person for her. I can never give her that feeling of being a stranger, or an outsider. I fear her manic depression is leading her here and there's not a thing I can do. What can I do? I feel checkmated if she can't convince me she wants to work on this marriage wholly and unequivocally. Other than admitting her to IP psych or having her family come get her so I can depart without feeling like she will kill herself, I have no options. Story 3, wife had an affair partly because of me. Me, M34, and wife, F32, have been married for 14 years with 7 kids. D-Day for me was December 23rd. From early on in our marriage I was questioning my sexuality due to intermittent ED issues and wondering what was wrong with me. I posted ads on Craigslist personals looking to hook up with guys without the intent to hook up but more so to engage in conversation to see if it's something that helps my issue. No sexting or anything occurred. In more recent years I was on gay apps asking about the same due to questioning being gay or bi still. I've never hooked up with anyone and never went further than causal conversation. My wife did catch me many times and I always denied due to being scared to tell her the truth. So I know I'm not totally innocent here. Over the years sex has always been harder for me because of the intermittent ED issues, and while we've had spurts of great sex there have been times it wasn't so great and I didn't do a great job of making sure her needs were met or ensuring she felt sexy and desired in the bedroom. The last 8 months sex was off the table for me. I had a medical issue that kept me from having sex physically, and during this time my wife felt rejected and hurt and not desired by me, and I didn't do anything to make sure her needs were met. This year I found out I had hormone issues and it solved the issue for me. The tired all the time for no reason, lower libido, and sex drive and ed issues, low motivation and brain fog, irritability, and mood swings, etc., all went away. It's like I'm a new person. It's incredible. For all the years I did try to get help. I went to many doctors and they failed me. They always said it's depression or stress and I'm fine. So I can say I did try to get help before now. Shortly after I started seeing benefits from treatment, I found that my wife has been cheating on me for the last 2 months with a guy she met on Reddit. She was sending videos and photos of herself, sexting, and all the things you'd expect from a cheating wife with an AP. I confronted her and she confessed and said she had cut it off a few days prior to me finding out to work on us, as I was expressing that I really want to try sex again and be intimate due to feeling better and physically able to have sex, and the treatment was working and I have great sex drive and desire now. There is no question about being gay or not, and I can confidently say I'm straight. She swears they never met in person, but I'm not sure still, and I guess I'll never truly know. I understand that I did this and it's my fault. While I didn't technically make her cheat, she did it due to how I made her feel and the things I didn't do, which is my fault. My sexual desire and libido increase and ability physically came too late. She has friend-zoned me into her and just a roommate and co-parent. She says she's trying to flip the switch in her brain to want me again intimately. We're having sex, but it's duty sex to her. She's not turning me down, but she's not into it, and I only doing it out of guilt in the hope she is into it one time. I just can't get past all the feelings and emotions such as this guy is better than me. I don't feel desired and wanted. A taste of my own medicine, I guess. Will she do it again? Does she regret me finding out? Etc. It's just not leaving me alone. I desire sex with her and desire her and want her, but it hurts so bad that she isn't into it with me and she doesn't desire and want me like she did this other guy, and there's literally nothing I can do to change it but keep touching her, keep trying to have sex and hope she changes, etc. I've spent many hours crying and it comes in waves. I thought my estradiol was high from TRT at first, but it's not, it's just the situation. I have triggers now like her studio where she took the videos and photos for him and where she spent many hours talking to him and who knows what else. I can tell she feels bad and she does want to fix things, as she does still love me, but it's hard for me. My brain is pulling me in different directions. One is to leave because she doesn't want me and likely never will, and it's a lost cause. The other side is saying to keep trying. Keep touching her and trying to be intimate even if it stings, and eventually she'll want me and desire me again. She says she wants me to touch her and wants me to keep trying sex with her, as if I don't she doesn't how she'll ever get to the point of wanting me again. This just hurts so bad. The entire situation, even if it's mostly my fault. I don't want our marriage to end and she doesn't either, and I want to make this work. We're starting therapy with hopes it helps, but I'm not sold will help. I read so many stories on Reddit that are not great success stories, so I'm worried she'll never get there with me, and I know all of this will always haunt me. Story 4, Wife cheated. I stayed for the kids, a bad decision, a horrible situation. Greetings. Throwaway account for privacy reasons. My wife cheated on me 4 years ago. We have 2 daughters, 12 and 14 at the time. She had an affair with one of her friends, and it lasted 6 months. At the time, we couldn't divorce, we had a lot of debt, money issues, and 2 daughters. I decided to stay for their sake and gave up my health for them. I didn't want to reconcile. I didn't want anything to do with her, nothing. At first, it was easy. She tried and tried to make up for her cheating, therapy, good deeds, all that stuff, but I couldn't care less about her. Over time, my libido died, and I had zero interest in sex or women. I changed my job to one that paid more, which allowed me to start clearing debt faster, solve money issues, and at that time, I was planning on divorce. Years passed, and I managed to solve most of the problems, and I think pretty soon I'll finally be able to leave her. She tried and begged me for years to reconcile, but I refused. I don't believe in second chances, and I don't believe that cheaters change. All I did was work, train a bit, and take care of my daughters. Naturally, my wife became depressed, changed jobs a few times, started therapy, everything, but over the years, I became indifferent. I didn't care where she was or what she did. I was only there for my daughters, and she knew that. I told her that many times. At times, we wouldn't even see each other, even though we lived in the same house. She would leave and come back after few hours. I never asked where she went. I never cared. A recent event made me feel like I should have left sooner, but a lot of problems prevented me from doing so. We never told our daughters what happened, but I'm pretty sure they know something is really wrong because, over time, they only wanted to spend more time with me. They wanted me to cook, take them on trips, etc. I tried to make it 50-50 between me and my wife. If I took them on a trip, she would take them out, etc. That worked for a short while, but then I started to notice that they began resenting their mom and wanted to spend way more time with me than with her. I don't know if she told them, but I'm pretty sure she didn't because they never asked me about it. She tried to make them happy with gifts and all of that, but as they got older, that stopped working. Our daughters are really smart, athletically gifted, kind, and polite, but I noticed that they are also really cold. Their hearts are in the right place, but they are really cold on the outside, and I'm pretty sure I'm the one to blame for it. I come across as a really cold and distant person, and I guess they took that from me. They are also really honest and dead serious. The younger one has a fiery temper and is impatient, while the older one only thinks about earning money through various ideas and is very athletic. Recently, I got promoted and told them about it. Both of them wanted me to buy them things and take them on more expensive trips, outside the country. My wife took that as a sign and tried to reconnect again, over and over. She kept trying, even though I told her many times that she and I are done. I never asked her to stay, and I never told her to stay. She stayed on her own. The main problem is that, if we divorce, I'm almost certain our daughters will spend most of the time with me. They don't even listen to their mom most of the time. I really didn't want them to resent their mother, but I see now that I seriously messed up. My wife and I have a problem between us, and we tried not to let it spill over to our daughters, but it's clear now that it was a horrible decision. TLDR. My wife cheated on me 4 years ago, and I stayed for our daughters, even though I was emotionally distant and uninterested in reconciling. Over time, I focused on work, getting out of debt, and taking care of our daughters. My wife tried to reconcile, but I refused. Our daughters have grown closer to me and now resent their mom. I feel like I've messed up by staying in a broken marriage for their sake, and I worry that if we divorce, they might push their mom out of their lives for good. Edit. I explained in the comments why we couldn't divorce at the time, so you can read it for more context. Greetings. Recently, I asked for advice here about my situation. Most of you pointed out that it's not my responsibility to fix the relationship between my soon-to-be ex-wife and my daughters, and I agree. I decided a long time ago that we were divorcing. I was just waiting to get things in order first. My original plan was to file for divorce in January or February, but I was forced to do it sooner due to what happened recently. I was out, and my younger daughter had a fight with her mom over some personal issues, which I won't share here, and things got really bad. When I came home, both of them were angry, and my younger daughter told me about it. I won't go into much detail to keep this post short, but I tried to fix the situation, and it only got worse. They said some pretty heavy things to each other, but things got worse when our daughter used her mother's cheating against her. To sum it up, my wife claimed she loved us, that she made a horrible mistake, and that she deserved to be treated better and with more respect. But our younger daughter yelled at her and said, "If you love us, why did you hurt Dad? Why did you leave us? Why was he more important than us?" There was no response from my wife and my daughter started crying and ran to her room. I went to check on her, and I didn't know what to say, because no matter what I said, I couldn't make things better. So I hugged her and let her cry. She then told me that she loves me and is proud of me for not leaving them. It stabbed me in the heart, and I started to cry too. She looked at me and told me she was sorry for making me sad. I was with my daughter for maybe 20 or 30 minutes. Once she calmed down, I went to the living room where my wife was. She looked really sad. I knew this had been going on way too long, so later that day, I told my wife it was over. I couldn't stand seeing my daughter cry anymore, so I told my wife she needed to leave. She started crying and asked where she should go. I just told her, go to your friends, family, go to him, anywhere but here. She begged me for one more chance, but I told her to stop and just leave. She took some of her things and left for her parents' house the next day. Few days later we told the girls about the divorce. They handled it better than I expected, they knew which was obvious. They didn't want to hear details about their mom's affair. I did, and it was worse than I thought, but it didn't change anything. I also told her to make the divorce as easy as possible, there was no reason to make this harder than it already was. I made it clear that I would never stop them from talking to or seeing her, they're free to do what they want. So, that's where we are at right now. They are staying with me, they made that clear. As for me, I don't think I'll date or get married again. I'm older now, and I'd like to live a calmer and hopefully happier life. Story 5, life is full of surprises I guess. I, M34, have been married to my wife, F35, for 6 years, and we have 2 children aged 3 and 4. From the beginning, she was incredibly attached to me, always very intimate and caring. Around last spring, I noticed a shift in her behavior, there was much less intimacy, fewer compliments, and she seemed more distant. I talked to her about it, and she mentioned that she was overwhelmed with the stress of taking care of the toddlers, feeling left out, and my upcoming migration abroad for work. She also said that I had been dismissive of her concerns, and that I was set on my goal without taking her cries for help seriously. She expressed feeling alone, with no outside help from family or friends, and said she had closed herself off emotionally. While I did think she was exaggerating, I was considerate of her feelings and made it clear that I was concerned. I never dismissed her. In September, when I visited them, everything seemed great, apart from the lack of sexual intimacy, but I offered to try anything to close the distance between us. I even suggested we move abroad together, but she said she was overwhelmed and would adjust. I reassured her that we would make it work. Fast forward to last week, during the Christmas holidays. Everything seemed fine again, the kids were happy, and I was spending time with them. However, I noticed some changes in her behavior. She was being secretive with her phone, which was completely out of character. After some internal debate, I decided to check her phone. I found a message from a man that said, "What are you up to?" and a response from her saying, "I can only trust you," followed by him replying, "My love." At that moment, everything in my world collapsed. I continued to scroll and found more incriminating evidence, but I couldn't bring myself to continue at that point. I confronted her quietly, as family was present. She froze and didn't know how to respond. She claimed she was overwhelmed and that it was just texting, saying, "I'm sure you get texts from women, too," and that it was just a chat. When I asked her multiple times to show me the rest of the messages, she refused, saying, "I don't want things to get that petty between us." Afterward, I dropped them off at the airport, kissed the kids goodbye, and she tried to hug and kiss me, but I turned away and left. Since then, she has messaged me sparingly. I've told her to only contact me about the kids or any financial matters. She keeps insisting that it's impossible for us not to work things out, but I have not been moved. I've spoken briefly with my children, but that's the extent of our communication. The night before all of this unfolded, I sat down with her and tried to make things clear. I admitted that I may have been dismissive of her concerns, and I expressed my gratitude for everything she was doing for our family. I acknowledged that I should have made it clearer that I wasn't indifferent, but rather very concerned for her well-being. I explained that I didn't have many concrete solutions to offer, but I had always been supportive. I also acknowledged that being the sole parent of 2 young children while I worked abroad for the next 1.5 years would be difficult, but I reassured her that I was 110% committed to making it work. I asked if she felt the same, and she looked me dead in the eye and said, "Of course I am." I have a feeling that she will again refuse to provide full information, which is extremely incriminating. If she does, I will take it as confirmation that my decision is sound. I feel like she doesn't fully understand the gravity of her actions and is still trying to downplay the situation. My gut feeling tells me this was a full-blown affair for months, and the fact that she's not coming clean is infuriating. I am only seeing separation as the way out, even though my initial reaction was to look for any saving grace. But unfortunately, I see none. I've been considering separation, but it's difficult to think about the impact on our children, and I don't want to make decisions while I'm still emotionally raw. I wake up with palpitations every night, and I've been struggling with my appetite. Thankfully, my job has been demanding, so it helps keep my mind occupied. I even offered to quit my current position and return to them if that would ease her pressure, but she insisted that I should continue my work. In retrospect, I'm glad I didn't act on that offer. I had also planned to visit them in January for my son's birthday, but I've decided to cancel my trip because I'm not in a good place emotionally, and being around her would only cause me more harm. She doesn't know that I've canceled my flights. I'm planning to reach out to her before she leaves for her sister's New Year's holiday. I'll let her know that I'm willing to listen to her when I'm ready, but I expect full disclosure of the affair, including a timeline and any messages, even the deleted ones, which I believe can be retrieved. I'm not interested in hearing any excuses because there are none. I feel strongly that the way forward is divorce, but it infuriates and depresses me to think that so many people, especially my kids, will be affected by her actions. The whole situation still feels surreal to me. If anyone has suggestions or thinks I'm handling things wrong, please feel free to comment. I've been trying to handle this on my own and not involve anyone else, like grandparents, as I don't want things to spiral out of control. However, I know it's inevitable that our families will find out soon. Story 6, my story, advice on how to co-parent with a cheating husband who still won't divorce me and is on his second relationship with a coworker. I can't believe that this is my life and I'm actually writing this. My life story with the person I married just continues to morph over time. I made a huge mistake and I've felt alone, confused and unsafe since the very beginning. I always knew this person was not for me, didn't even show an interest in me at that, yet stayed with me and I thought that stood for something. I constantly battle in my mind if this is the way a relationship/marriage is supposed to feel or if I'm living in some sort of fantasy of the way I hoped it would be, filled with love, intimacy, and connection. I equated sex for love and the fact that he wanted to marry me made me feel like it had to be right. I constantly wondered what he saw in me aside from maybe being a pretty face. Because he didn't seem interested in me as a person at all and couldn't connect with me on a deeper level. Why would he be here then, I'd think? Maybe he needed more time. Though his energy told another story, and I would think by the time you desire to marry a person, that's closeness would have already been established. However, he always looked serious and eventually irritated around me, and no matter how many times I've tried to check in with him to see what's going on, he would time after time again say nothing, everything's fine. This went on for years. No emotion, extremely surface-level exchanges that involve talks about what's for dinner, the weather, his fascination with cars, his job and the logistics of it, people on his team, obstacles he'd encounter with certain projects, etc. I would always listen and found this to be the extent of connection we had with one another. It's what I held on to. I never felt like he was truly interested in me as a person or anything I felt or had to say, no matter what his was about. I'm talking anything from vulnerable conversations regarding childhood to present-day adulthood, our lives, our children, just life in general, interests, conflicts, beliefs, hopes, faith, dreams for the future, specific goals for myself, for him, our family. I know nothing. It truly felt like trying to engage with a stone wall. I had came to the realization pretty late in the game and years after being married that I've always felt stagnant with him. We never talked about anything of substance from the beginning of time. I don't even know what he believes in faith-wise. And that is so absurd to me. I eventually convinced myself to accept that I'm married to someone I can't connect with on any level. There was no leadership on his behalf in the home. He was literally a body that's just there, and I'm the one that carried the weight of managing the house, making sure bills were paid as he can't manage money at all, keeping up with anything and everything that involves having children while still working a full-time job myself. I felt depleted and empty and never felt I was able to win his approval or feel affirmed or valued by him in any way. There were a few times throughout the marriage where he would randomly just say, "Thank you." I'd ask him for what, since he would say it at such random times, and he would just reply by saying, "Just for being you." I've done a lot of work on myself to figure out why I let this go on and last for so long. I was 22 when this all started and am now 37. I had always felt things were just not right, but he wouldn't acknowledge any of it. It was strange. I feel like I stood paralyzed in the analysis of it all. Even therapy, that I signed us both up for, he refused to go with me. He would go alone for years, and so I would go to the same therapist as well, but separate. So 5 years into this marriage, 1 child later, together for a total of 7 years at this point, I discovered my husband sexting and exchanging explicit photos with an ex-girlfriend and telling her that he should have married her instead. I was so beside myself. When I confronted him about it, he said he was sorry and didn't know why he did it. that he was just being selfish for a second. As if it's not already bad enough, I knew her and she is the niece of his stepfather. The two of them went out first, then introduced his mother and her uncle, to which in turn they married. So she's been around family parties, and there's instances where I've had to be around her. I would greet her and even small talk with her to not make it awkward. When I discovered this form of infidelity, I felt so betrayed, scared and confused. But it was as if nothing ever happened. He apologized. I tried to have a more in-depth conversation about why it happened and what happens next, and my husband just dismissed me like he always has. We were already actively seeing the same psychologist, separately, so I would just talk about my marriage whenever I would go to my sessions. The next few weeks we didn't say a word to each other. It was complete silent treatment in our home. I was devastated and trying to process it and figure out what's next, and I guess he just had nothing to say. It was during this time that I found out I was pregnant with our second child. This made everything even more confusing. I felt like he stole the joy of something so sacred to me. We had been trying for her leading up to this. He didn't seem thrilled about it, and in hindsight, why would he? Just a couple weeks prior, he was sexting his ex. I still don't know whatever came of it, if they met up with one another. The messages ended abruptly in mid-conversation of their sexting. I will never know. I felt very alone during my pregnancy. At that point, I decided to just carry on and forget about what happened. My husband didn't seem attracted to me much either. He barely even touched me. We rarely became intimate while I was carrying, as much as I told him I wanted it. He didn't seem sexually aroused anymore by my pregnant appearance. I had our second daughter, and life just continued to feel very robotic and stagnant, with now the added responsibility of another child. 3 years later, something told me to look in my husband's Apple Watch that he left on the nightstand. And that's when I discovered the second affair, this time indefinitely physical, with his coworker. They would get hotel rooms after work. She would tell him to make sure he deleted their messages before returning home to me. I knew the marriage was 100% over. When I nervously confronted him, he responded that me and him are done and he wants a divorce. No remorse. Was just upset that I looked on his watch. Told me what they had going on was none of my business. He left and that was the end of it. All just feels like a big mystery to me. It's been 2.5 years. My daughters are now 10 and 5. He never filed the paperwork, so we're legally still married. He makes a little over $100K with just a high school diploma. Stayed at the same workplace since high school and worked his way up the ranks, now making what he makes. I don't make nearly that, even though I have a BA, obtained that before having our children, but I'm back in school now obtaining my master's to be able to make more money, as I can't get past a certain salary with my experience and background. I've had to move into a 1-bedroom with my children to afford rent and get back on my feet. I did take him to court for child and spousal support a year ago, so I'm currently receiving that. He's continued to live with extended family, paternal aunt/husband and their kids in their spare guest room, doesn't pay rent, helps them out in other ways I learned, contributes monetarily to household projects/maintenance, supports their drinking/smoking habits, groceries, watches their kids if they go away, cleans, with my children spending overnights with him there every other weekend. I've expressed my concern about our daughters not having a space of their own and sharing a full-size bed with him for these 2.5 years, that I don't find it appropriate. The girls are becoming older and they deserve better, but he's just ignored me. I stopped overnight 6 months ago as I was so upset by the living situation, to which he took me to court and the judge granted him back the overnights. Told the judge he had an apartment lined up that a friend was hooking him up with, which never happened. He told me it fell through, and on a $100K salary can't afford to live on his own. A 38-year-old man. Fast forward to last month, my daughters came home telling me they met with Daddy's friend from work. I asked them her name and it wasn't the same one he cheated with. It was another woman I remember that was on his team as well. Now every weekend/break he's had them this month, they're suddenly with this woman, and this past week she's been sleeping over his aunt's house with my children too. She even woke up on Christmas morning to watch them open their gifts as they were with him this year. I asked him about this as he didn't mention this will begin happening, and I kept getting ignored through text message, to which I had to confront him in person about it. He told me it's none of my business. I told him it was my business to know if another woman he's with is now going to start being around my children, as that's an important change in their life and it's happening suddenly. They met her 2 weeks ago and now this week she's sleeping over and partaking in Christmas with my children. He didn't say anything, just stares at me blankly. I asked him if she knows he's still married to me, His team all know he was/is a married man with children, and why he hasn't just divorced me already since he's financially in a position to file as opposed to me who is struggling to stay afloat and has actual bills, rent, utilities, etc. It's been 2.5 years. I don't even qualify for legal aid due to it not being a case of domestic violence. He said she's aware we're still married and he'll start to work on it. Not only do I feel contempt for him, but I feel particularly disgusted with the aunt and husband who allow all this to go down in their home with my children there and him still being a married man. I've always felt like no one gets me in his world. Not him, not his family. Anything goes. Everything is accepted it seems and no one sees how it's wrong and dysfunctional. He hasn't even had an actual discussion with the girls, especially our 10-year-old, about this new change. She's just his friend from work that sleeps over and wakes up with them. I stress the importance of not labeling her as just that considering the circumstances and how that can be confusing to our child and he should have a talk with her and be truthful instead of labeling her as his co-worker, to the kids WTFFF. We don't sleep with work friends. I don't appreciate my children learning that's just a normal thing people do. He said he's not having a talk with them about it until they're more permanent. I'm just so perplexed. There are no words for the level of betrayal, devastation, and mind fuck this person has been in my life. I feel like he ruined me. Ruined my prime years and just degraded and dishonored me as not only a wife, but a person. I'm trying so hard to heal from this. Let go completely. Look down on it all and move forward, but I can't help but to feel like I'm still in the thick of it and feeling so horrible about the way my life has played out. In the beginning of him leaving he tried to stay friendly with me but I made it very known that I wanted nothing to do with small talk, laughing, pretty much acting like nothing happened at what he was hoping for. After all this time I still can't even bring myself to look him in his face. I just keep my eye contact on our girls during exchanges. I feel like I get PTSD anytime I have to be in proximity to him during exchanges or if I hear his voice on a call. I just don't know how to cope and move on. I'm afraid I'll always feel stuck in the pain and confusion of it all. I'm just looking for advice on all of this. Story 7. Girlfriend cheated. Now I'm living the life we dreamt together. We were college sweethearts, and let's call her Rose. I graduated ahead of Rose since I was her senior. I started working for us, to start build the life we want to have together. She then graduated and got a post in her dream company, where she met this guy we'll call Bambi. She eventually fell for Bambi while I was busy working. They were intimate until eventually I caught her, and we broke up. I must admit, the betrayal hit me so hard and it took some time before I have recovered. But, I moved on and got into another relationship not soon after. I then learned Rose got pregnant, and in the Philippines, Bambi should marry her at least to protect what's left of her dignity. She lost her job too. Me and my girlfriend lived our own lives. I climbed the corporate ladder and God has been good to us. We are being blessed with many things. I then proposed to my girlfriend. We had our beach wedding in one of the most expensive resorts in the South. We had our honeymoon in Europe. Wife and I both love to travel and we are visiting different places and countries twice or thrice a year. She only gives birth in St. Luke's. God blessed us with properties. And our kids are attending prime private schools. Later on, I learned that Bambi was beating Rose and eventually moved on with younger woman, leaving her and her son. Knowing this, I somehow felt bad for Rose. Because the life I am living now is the life we both dreamt together. Story 8, my F30 husband, M33, probably cheated. How do I go about this? I can't believe I'm in this situation. My F30 husband, M33, and I have been together for 9 years, married for 6, and we have 3 young kids. I thought we have an amazing, loving relationship and he's always gone above and beyond for me and the kids. I've always felt like I could go to him for absolutely anything and he'd take care of me. About 2 weeks ago, while my husband was getting ready for work, his phone buzzed on the counter and I saw the messages saying, "See you tonight," and, "Make sure she doesn't know anything." The contact name was a woman's name I'd never heard before. I was shocked but I wanted to see what would happen in the evening and didn't say anything but I knew something was clearly up. In the evening, my husband said he had to work late and I tracked his location and saw that he left work a little early and was around a hotel for around 2 hours. As much as I wanted to, I didn't confront him because the holidays were coming up and we had plans to spend time with my parents and I didn't want to ruin things for them or our kids. I told myself I could suppress my thoughts and feelings and we would talk about this later on, and we did have a really good couple of weeks. He's been so loving and attentive that I literally don't know what to think. For Christmas, he surprised me with a new wedding band since my old one broke recently, and he also got me a beautiful necklace in the style he knows I love. He's been his usual self, being present at home, helping with the kids, being affectionate and romantic, and we've been intimate multiple times a week. In his sleep, he still pulls me close. Ever since that evening when he was at a hotel, I've been checking his location a lot and he's always just at work or the gym. There are no telltale signs of cheating, so I literally don't know what to think. I've tried to tell myself that maybe I'm overthinking and that there could be an innocent explanation for everything, but those messages on his phone and his time at the hotel are eating away at me. I feel like I've always been a really loving and supportive wife to him, and I can't understand why he would feel the need to step out. It's tearing me up inside, and I feel stuck between confronting him and just moving on. My husband can tell something is on my mind and has been asking me about it, and I've just been saying that I'm tired, but I can't keep doing this. On one hand, I feel like I'd rather not know, but I also can't keep second-guessing everything. How do I go about this? Story 9, BF, M28, cheating on me with ex-coworker, M50, excuse rambling. I, F28, found out my boyfriend, M28, has been cheating on me with an ex-coworker, F50, for over a year. We have been together for 7 years and have a 5-year-old together. I'm absolutely devastated and so angry that is an understatement. Jumping right into it. When they did work together, he would sometimes stay 20 minutes longer, and when I would ask, he would just say, I was talking to her about being a nurse. She'd previously worked in that field. He's going to school for nursing. I thought that was cool. She also works with a morgue at the time, which I was super interested in, and would even ask her questions through him on what she did. Yes, she did know about me and the relationship, even gave me her number if I ever wanted to get into it. I still have it. I have never seen her and literally didn't think anything of it. She was older, had a daughter our age. Some co-workers brought up I should watch out for her. She's good looking and she had her body done and she loved to put it out there. I felt uncomfortable about it after, self-conscious. I did, but I didn't express that. He never gave me a reason to think anything was going on, and I never thought I would be in this situation. So I thought, she ended up getting fired from the job. Time went on and he ended up getting a better one. Thought that was the end of that and I didn't have to worry anymore. Things were going great. We got into a house, talked about have another baby since our time is ticking. Always wanted to be done after 30 to enjoy life. I noticed he started getting weird about his phone and was on social media a lot more, Snapchat, and he rarely posts. One night he fell asleep before I did. I always check to see if he set his alarm, and he just so happened to be on Snapchat, so I looked at the messages, didn't see anything. Then it went to the search bar and underneath had recent chats with her name, so I clicked and found all the videos/pictures, S3 she had sent him, and he saved off course the chat wasn't. I was sent into the worst panic and pain. I literally couldn't believe everything I saw. To top it all off, in the chat he just sent, I can't forget the first time we had NAL with you. I'm so heartbroken you would cheat on me with this woman that is only enough to be his mom, and she would do this to someone with a family. I have not told him yet that I know and what I found. I do have a child involved and need to get my ducks in a line. I'm planning to tell him after New Year's and he will be kicked out the house. Our relationship is over. What is done. 7 years is thrown out the window. I can't help but to feel absolutely lost in pain. I am only human. Story 10. Girlfriend cheated on me with my brother and started drama with me after. My now ex, F16, and I, M16, were dating for a total of 6 months, and we had gotten pretty far in the relationship. She had gotten to meet my family not long before the incident happened, and my family were skeptical if they could trust her since they had only met with her once or twice. I was playing cards with my family on New Year's Eve, since it was usual that any time that family reunites we play cards for hours. At about 10 p.m. I was starting to wonder where my girlfriend had gone because she was nowhere to be seen for a couple hours. I texted her and I got no response. About an hour later I finally decided to start looking around the house for her because I know if she would have left the house she would let me know first. The first place I checked was my bedroom, which I share with my older brother, 18M. What I had seen in my own bed is still imprinted in my head. Both my older brother and my girlfriend were making out in my bed when I had walked in, and GF was surprised that she had been caught. I told my brother to get the hell out of our room and told GF to stay. I yelled at her, which I know now is extremely immature, and I'm only 16, but still, I could have done something else. It just seemed right in my mind at the time. So I yelled at GF, I asked her if it all really meant nothing, and how long she had been cheating on me for. It turned out that was the beginning of it, and said that my brother had thrown himself on top of her. I didn't believe a word she said and told her to get out. She asked if I could give her a ride home since most of her friends either can't drive or are asleep and her family was out of state. I did as my last act of kindness towards her and tried to promise myself to never speak to her again. Skip to about a month and a half ago. Now ex-GF had spread rumors that I was going to shoot up our school. I had a bomb in my backpack. I took inappropriate pictures of her, and a whole bunch of other stuff to try to ruin my reputation, which got me in huge trouble with the school principal, who of which I had actually just gotten on his good side after events of before. So after I had found out about all of this bull ex-GF had told just about everyone at this point, I decided to confront her about it, and boy did it get messy. She continuously made excuses of how I broke up with her for a stupid reason and how I should have just gotten over it. I was over it, but what she had done brought me back. After I had confronted her and she said what she said, I decided to get revenge on her, which would mean breaking a promise I made long before the incident. What I did was send to all of her friends the most embarrassing picture I could find, which many of them laughed at it, pissing ex-GF off and making her look bad in front of everyone. So in the past 1.5 months she had gotten together with my brother, and he constantly brags about it to this day. I have started talking to someone else since what happened, and I have actually great bond with her. TLDR, GF cheats on me with my brother, gets me in deep shit months later, and I get revenge. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like and hit that subscribe button to follow cheating love stories for more amazing videos. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next one.